So this is Pachinko 2. Yesterday I was talking about the author, how she was compelled to write about Korean history, well, Korean Japanese history. And now today, number 2, I want to just talk about a bit of a history of Korea because King Jongjo period in Joseon Dynasty, or we call also known as Yi Dynasty, that would be like mid 18th century until and sort of beginning of the 19th century. They were, we call it Renaissance period of Korea, where Yong and Jongjo, Kings Yong and Jongjo, reigned, and the Korea was thriving. Then when the King Jongjo passed away in 1800, the beginning of the 19th century, it was all right when his only son ruled for the next 30 odd years, but after that they didn't have any heir to the throne. So the clans, or rather the factional parties, would become so powerful. So basically the kings who came after Sunjo will be Honjong, Cheoljong, and Gojong and Sunjong. These four kings, it's become, I mean, Honjong reigned only very little time, like 15 years. But after that, basically mid 19th century onward, it was a dreadful state. And so already when Japanese occupied or colonized Korea, to use Korea as their resources to expand their territory to Chong, the old China, and also Russia. Korea was suffering in a great deal. So this Pachinko was set during that occupational period. On to 1910 up to 1945, where Japanese surrendered and went retreated. So then Korea was became independent, but then we had own problems. Then Korean War. So it's up to 1989 when the protagonist grandson Solomon was working in an investment bank in New York. Oh, anyway, so this is the time the historical background, you see. So Pachinko was made very cleverly because it was darting back and forth between Busan, Yeongdo, where Sonja was born, hometown, and Hansu, the male protagonist, also hometown. But you can't say him really protagonist, but for Sonja, he's an important person. And then, so then darted back to Osaka, where old Sonja, in her mid 70s, 74-year-old Sonja is still living in Osaka. And then her son was running pachinko, and his son, so Sonja's grandson, went to study America, and then he became an investment banker, which is a pride and joy of the family. So that's what they dealt with, this the background, historical background. But Hansu plays a character where he was in abject poverty. Then he is a self-made man, and we don't know yet how he is he made his wealth, but he came back to Busan Yeongdo, and then he is in charge of a whole the market, especially fishery um, industry. So he is ruthless and very authoritative businessman and very well dressed. It was such a joy to watch Pachinko because their clothes, the attire, explains so much of the historical background, social background, and just the costume speaks for themselves. So it was very cleverly made in historical term and also this social background and very gripping. So you want to, it finishes so quickly each episode. So anyway, it's released from 1 to 3. So I don't know, fourth will be aired on 1st of April. So I can't wait. So anyway, that's the number 2 installment from me about pachinko. But often I pronounce pachinko. That's how I heard. I think maybe perhaps pachinko is maybe anglicized, American way, Americanized pronunciation. And perhaps, I don't know, I used to hear pachinko, so that must be Japanese pronunciation. Because often our parents who educated on the Japanese rules, they spoke, well, they know lots of Japanese word. So that's number 2.